from
Thank
Maryland.
you very much, Mr. Carroll. I appreciate that.
Mr. Raskin is recognized.
Thank you, and
for
I
5
yield back,
minutes.
Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. The gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Raskin, is now recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to start by saying that a corporation that exploits drug trafficking is not a corporation that deserves our sympathy, as Mr. Clyde suggests, but it is a cartel. And a family that exploits drug trafficking and the addictive qualities of its product is not one that should elicit the sympathy of the United States Congress. It is an organized crime family that is exploiting its power in order to take advantage of other people. Attorney General Healy, I'm curious why it's not a fraudulent bankruptcy or a fraudulent conveyance for the Sacklers just to transfer $10 billion or more out of their corporation into their pockets and then have the company declare bankruptcy. Why isn't that a fraudulent action?
Congressman, thank you for the question. We agree. We think it was wrong. We think that shouldn't have happened. And it's also why we continue to pursue what we can pursue and fight for our victims in this bankruptcy court. I mean, we're the ones now, we haven't had much success against the Sacklers. I mean, we've survived motions to dismiss, but the decks have been stacked against us throughout this process. And that's why we're before Congress today looking for relief.
Well, let me ask you about that. Can you explain how the bankruptcy court can essentially provide sweeping immunity from all civil lawsuits to a non-debtor, that is to someone who's not declared bankruptcy, who's not the subject of the bankruptcy proceeding, but simply say, we're going to immunize you from any civil proceedings? Why doesn't that violate the due process rights of people who might have legitimate claims against those people who are able to sneak into bankruptcy court and get umbrella coverage by a bankruptcy judge?
Madam Chairwoman, point of order.
Hold on just a
Can I
moment.
respond? Or shall I respond?
Yes, go ahead and respond.
Madam Chairwoman, point of order.
Thank you for that.
Sir, you've not been recognized. The chairwoman stepped out for just a second. This is Congressman DeSonia. She's asked me to fill in. I'm going to let the AG finish her comment.
Okay, well then I would like to address that I was addressed by name by Congressman Raskin.
Okay, just a minute, please.
Yeah, and I'm just getting started with what you had to say, Mr. Clyde, on my time.
All right.
And I'd like my
Mr. Raskin is recognized.
But I wonder if the Attorney General could answer that question, which is how the bankruptcy court can allow a release from liability and debt of a non-debtor, someone who's not a subject of the proceeding.
Congressman, in our view, they shouldn't be allowed to. And Department of Justice agrees with us, as do 24 of my colleagues. I mean, the role of bankruptcy, and I'm no bankruptcy expert, but I'll give it a shot as an Attorney General. We've been in this realm many times. The role of the bankruptcy court and the bankruptcy code is you're trying to maximize value. So there may be instances where you allow people to pay in who are not actually debtors, who are not actually in bankruptcy. That may redound to the benefit. That said, the one thing that I don't think Congress contemplated in writing the bankruptcy code was for it to be allowed to be abused and contorted, and as a loophole and a way out and a way to buy immunity if you're non-bankrupt billionaires who did really, really bad things, criminal things at the exploitation and expense of so many lives.
Well, I appreciate that. This is an outrageous loophole made up by a bunch of judges, which apparently the Department of Justice has gone along with in different political guises. But if people have legitimate legal claims against the Sackler family and against Purdue, I don't understand how a bankruptcy judge can immunize private individuals who are not part of the bankruptcy proceeding from being sued. And I would hope that every member of this committee who really cares about people who've been injured by the outrageous actions of the Sacklers would get behind this act, this bill, that we've put together to try to overthrow this completely irrational and unjust loophole. You know, there's a new culture of impunity and immunity in America, and we just heard some of it from one of our colleagues. You can lie about OxyContin and drive hundreds of thousands of people into death and despair in their families. You can loot the corporation of $10 billion. You can pay a small symbolic fee by getting lawyers to fix it for you. You can waltz off with the other billionaires. Just like you can smash the windows of the US Capitol, you can trash the place, you can threaten the Vice President of the United States, you can threaten to assassinate the Speaker of the House. And we have colleagues who don't even want to have a bipartisan commission split right down the middle, half Republicans, half Democrats, to investigate this assault on us. This is the culture of impunity that our colleagues are bringing us today. And we are seeing the devastation and the wreckage in the wasteland of communities across the country suffering from the effects of the Sacklers, suffering from the effects of the misconduct of their corporation. And so we need to pass this legislation to close this made-up loophole, which is allowing them to get away with pocketing billions of dollars while the people of America suffer. I yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Raskin. Before I go to Mr. Fallon, Mr. Clyde, do you want to state your point of order?
Yes, I believe that Mr. Raskin said that I said that I was sympathetic to the Sacklers. I was not. I did not say that.
You said they were being targeted. You said one family was being unfairly targeted. That sounded like it.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Biggs, just a second. Everybody take a deep breath. Mr. Raskin, let's let Mr. Clyde finish, and then I'll give you a moment. Thank you, Mr. Biggs.
I don't, that was not I did not say unfairly targeted. You know, I did not say that. That was not those are not my words.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Raskin, anything briefly?
Yeah, that's fine. If he thinks they were fairly targeted, then we are on the same side of this. And I apologize to Mr. Clyde if there was any other suggestion there. I misinterpreted what he said. It sounded like he was saying they were being unfairly targeted, but he's saying they're being fairly targeted, so we're together.
Thank you, Mr. Raskin. Thank you, Mr. Clyde. We will now go to Mr. Fallon for 5 minutes.